Welcome to the Prep Huddle podcast. I'm KJ Pilcher alongside Gazette Prep sports writers, Jeff Linder and Jeff Johnson, bringing you some of the happenings in the midpoint of the prep football season here. Linder always liked the Dale Jones comment, fastest 9 weeks of the season. Talking to some coaches and players, it's kind of a surprised that they're at this point. Certainly halfway for the smaller classes that will start the playoffs in week 9, and of course we'll be past the halfway point for everybody after Friday. But a lot of goings on in the in Eastern Iowa, the football scene last week. Let's just jump right into some of the games and results from a week ago. And I'll actually kick things off here since I had the pleasure of heading up to Arlington for the Class A game between Starmont and, at the time, number 4 East Buchanan. And guys, I tell you what, I'll be honest, I went up there expecting East Buchanan to kind of position itself to 3-1 with a district showdown at North Lynn this week. But the Stars came away with a huge win, and not just a big win, guys. They were dominant, 46-0. Really kind of punched East Buchanan in the face early. The first few sequences of the game, it was a defensive stop, a blocked punt, then Anthony King 10-yard touchdown run on the very first offensive snap for Starmont. Then it was another stop, and then it was an Anthony King punt return for a touchdown. And East Buck really never regrouped after that. Starmont just continued to rack things up. The defense looks very strong and physical. Anthony King, heck of an athlete there in the backfield for him, does a lot of things. But they really came out, rebounded from a 27-0 loss, I think, the week before to Northland. So that tells you a little bit about Northland's defense as well. But, I know East Buck was shorthanded. Hunter Bauer had to sit out that game. But as Jerry Alden said, after the game, one person doesn't make up for 40 points. One person doesn't score that many points. One person doesn't prevent 40 points. So he wasn't using that as an excuse. I think he simply said they kicked our butts in every every phase of the game. And, congratulations to Mike Augustine, the head coach there. It was only about 5 years ago that program was forfeiting its last 4 or 5 games of the season. And now look at them, they're 3-1 and right in the middle of the district race there in Class A.
And you've got East Buchanan now has to face North Lynn, which, as you mentioned, beat Starmont 2 weeks ago, 27-0. So, big game for the Bucks here. Who would have thought that they could possibly have 3 losses here? It'd be 2-3 in the first 5 games. So, be interesting to see how they respond after getting literally punched in the mouth. It sounds like, Pilch. So, yeah, good story up there at Starmont, and obviously I've had a lot of relatives that have played in that program up there. Got a lot of family up there, so they've really fallen on hard times. But when you're trying to turn it around, you need a statement win, I guess, and maybe this was the one, huh?
Yeah. You really look at just things in that district. If East Buck is able to rebound and get a win against Northland this week, you're looking at kind of a similar scenario from last year when it was East Buck, Northland, and Alburnett who had all beaten each other early on. You could have the same type of scenario with Northland, East Buck, and Starmont. this time in that three-way situation. But that's a lot of ifs. It all depends on how things go this Friday. But Jeff, we've talked a lot, or Lindy, got to remember there's more than one Jeff here. But Lindy, we've talked a lot about kind of resurrected programs and teams that are finding success again. What about Starmont? Does that kind of get overlooked by the likes of Jefferson and maybe Tipton? That they really have come a long way in the last 5 or 6 years when they had their numbers issues.
Yeah. Honestly, I thought you were wasting your time going up to Arlington before you went up to Arlington Thursday. I thought East Buck's going to win that game by 3 or 4 touchdowns. I would say that's probably the most surprising score that I've seen this year. I don't know if you guys would agree or disagree.
I'd say.
I mean, you saw it, KJ. So I mean, you saw more than the score. You saw a tail kicking up there. Yeah, good for Starmont. East Buchanan was a team that I thought was dome worthy at the beginning of the year. I thought they would, be and maybe they still will. I don't know, but I thought that was a team that would be playing deep into November, and Starmont kicked the snot out of them. And you talk about that three-way between Starmont and Northland and East Buck, but we can't forget about Mac Valley in that district, and I don't think we can forget about Bellevue. I think there's 5 pretty good teams up there that are going to be playing musical chairs, and one team is going to be left heading out the door after week 8. And I think that's a deep district with five really good teams, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out.
It'll certainly be fun. JJ, did you have something you wanted to add?
No,
there?
I just wanted to say, yeah, Lindy, good call on like Mac Valley, right? I mean, that's a really quality football team too. So, kind of interesting how all those quality teams kind of ended up in the same district. And obviously, geography plays the biggest part. But yeah, Jeff's right. Somebody's going to be really disappointed at the end of the year. Feel like they have a good football team and not get a chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and before we close the door on Starmont here, they're at North Cedar this week. They're home against Postville next week. Without much effort at all, I think they're going to be sitting 5-1 going into their last 2 games at Bellevue and at home against Mac Valley.
I'll just continue with the other game that I saw last week. I was at Kingston Stadium for the intercity game between Cedar Rapids Kennedy and Cedar Rapids Washington. And guys, no real surprise there. Kennedy improved to 2-2. They posted a 45-7 victory over the Warriors. The Warriors moved to 0-4. Early on in this first or in this season, but Kennedy, they've righted the ship a little bit. Of course, 2 really tough opponents to start out with. 2 strong wins the last 2 weeks to move back to 500, and I think we're seeing a little bit more of kind of the typical Kennedy defense. Here, obviously the opponent makes a big difference, right? Where you're going from Dowling and Pleasant Valley in the first 2 weeks, to Washington and I can't remember who they had.
Linmar
the week before, but kind of a depleted Linmar team, right? With a shutout, but two strong performances there. And it was simply talking to BJ Henry, one of the captains for the Cougars, who I think had 2.5 sacks for the defense, 3.5, 1.5 tackles for loss, and 6.5 tackles to lead the Cougars against Washington, who pretty much held Washington to about 60 yards total. But they said, hey, we need to get better. We need to start worrying about us more than who we're playing, and just, do the things that are part of our scheme, and just worry about executing our game plans, and not worrying necessarily about who's on the other side of the line of scrimmage. And that seems to have paid off here the last couple of weeks. They have a big game against Iowa City High this weekend, so that might be a really good gauge to see how they've come so far this season.
Yeah, and I believe City High beat Kennedy last year. Was it the playoffs? No, in the end of the regular season, right? Was that
I'll effort that. You guys go ahead. I'll effort that here.
But it was, I think everybody knew this was a quality football team, and I mean they just played a really tough opening schedule, and what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger type of thing, right, Pilch?
Yeah.
But I mean, they've got everything you need. I think the defense was probably the thing that was the thing that has needed to come along a little bit, just because they graduated so many guys from last year's really good defense. But I mean, they've got everything you need to make the playoffs and be a team that makes a deep run. And we'll see. Big, like you said, huge game Friday night at City High, and interesting to see how City High comes off the winning the boot, which is such a emotional game against Iowa City West. We'll see how City High is able to respond emotionally and get back up for another huge game. Right, Jeff?
Yeah.
You saw them.
Yeah, they looked really good. I found that City High actually beat a 10-0 Kennedy team 2 years ago in the second round of the playoffs. Beat them bad, 32-13, I think. So that's the answer to that. And you talk about there's a lot of 2-2 games, a lot of 2-2 teams in Class 5A. Of the 36 teams in 5A, 17 of them are 2-2. So there's going to be a lot of shifting and a lot of movement. This might be moving week in Class 5A. We talked about that one. Who else? I think there's 2 or 3 other games involving Metro teams that both teams are 2-2, and I'll have to look that up too.
Linder, one thing I want to touch base on, since we are kind of referencing City High, you were at Bates Field last week, and you presented Ben Keeter with the Gazette Athlete of the Year award from this summer. What was that like? And man, kind of surprised, even though it's his hometown, with him doing the dual sport thing at Iowa. It was, on the eve of a home game even. It was nice that he made the appearance to receive that.
Yeah, I saw pictures of me handing off the award, and it looked like, looking at that, it made me look like I was about 5'2" and about 120 pounds. He's a big boy. And I guess that's what college football players look like. He's a big dude. So, it was nice. I enjoyed. That's one of the fun things that we do is the Athlete of the Year award. Handing that off Friday night. I get to do the same thing with Peyton Robinson over at Lisbon next Thursday. And City High was very impressive in that game. They looks like they've kind of gotten a running game now with Miles Parlay, and that's another team that's trying. That Kennedy City High game's a biggie. And I found the other 2-2 games, Landmark, Cedar Falls, Ankeny at Iowa City West. So those are some games that are going to have some big ramifications RPI wise going into the second half of the year.
Prairie and Liberty as well. All right,
Liberty's 1-3.
Liberty's 1-3, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, which is, I mean, they're I hate to say that's cliche, but they're probably the best 1-3 team in Class 5A. So
they have a win over City High.
Yeah, Liberty beat City High, which beat West, which beat Liberty. So who's the best team in Iowa City? I don't know.
Regina.
There you
Could
go.
be. Could be.
Just want to run down some other scores in the Metro last week. Pleasant Valley top Prairie 28-23. Jefferson improves to 4-0. They beat Des Moines East 56-12, heading into the East-West rivalry between the Jayhawks and the Warriors. Kind of interesting how this year Jayhawks are 4-0. Warriors are 0-4 coming into that game. Kind of a reversal of things. Linmar gave it a go. I mean, they were leading into the second half against a unbeaten Bettendorf team, but Bettendorf comes back with some late scores to win 21-14. Just we mentioned Linmar, kind of the injury bug has kind of affected them here after their 2-0 start. And then kind of a shocker down in Pella, I would say, after Xavier coming off a big win against Western Dubuque. Pella pretty much led throughout and won 31-21. And the other 4A Metro action, JJ, you were at Marion, and the Wolves trounced the previously unbeaten Maquoketa team 34-7. And after kind of two low scoring affairs, I guess, on their part, and a win against Clear Creek and a loss to Benton, the Wolves have really been a strong offensive squad at home the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and that's with some injuries in the backfield too. They lost their top running back a couple of weeks ago, and had a guy or two get dinged up Friday night. But Caden Griffith's a really good wide receiver. Coach Michael Joyner said he's one of the best receivers ever to come out of Marion, which is saying something. Had a couple of long touchdown catches, goes up, gets the ball. Kind of reminds you of Cyrus Courtney that way. I mean, he doesn't let the ball come to him. He goes and gets it. And, he took a couple of Caleb Dyer's passes to the house, and, good, strong defensive effort against Maquoketa spread. And, Marion looks primed for the opening of district play. And you mentioned Xavier, KJ. I can't figure out Xavier, just like I can't figure out 4A in general right now. So we've got so much parity, so many teams, I think, that can make a legit claim that they can get to the Unidome to the semifinals, right, guys?
Right. Yeah. Who's the best team in 4A? I don't know. I had Western Dubuque won in on my ballot this week. I'm not sure that's right or wrong. Their only loss is a 2-pointer at Xavier. That's certainly not a bad loss at all. They beat North Scott last week. Grant Gloucester ran for 389. What in the world? I mean, against a good North Scott defense. I know he had a couple 3 really long ones late, but still, holy cow. One unbeaten left in 4A, and that's Gilbert.
Who hasn't played the competition. I think that it's fair to say that everyone else in our top 10 has.
Right. Yeah, because a lot of the top 10 teams have faced each other, like Lewis Central and Western Dubuque and Xavier, Lewis Central, and was it ADM or Bondurant Farrar and those guys? Yeah, they've really kind of taken that that non-district play to heart and playing really, really quality teams. And how many times have we seen that pay off for teams in the long run to get that experience and then be better off down the road? But yeah, by far 4A, only one, as you mentioned, only one unbeaten team. I think 4A has 4, and then the rest of it's 5, 6, or 8 unbeatens. So by far 4A is probably the deepest and most balanced of all those classes, wouldn't you say?
I think so.
Yep, I agree.
I think it's just that class might be a bloodbath starting in the first round of playoffs. I don't even think it's going to wait until the quarters. I think that first round, oh boy, it's that's going to be some entertaining stuff. And a team like Xavier or Lewis Central or somebody like that might be going on the road first round. Who knows? And we'll see. A lot of ball to be played between now and then.
Yeah, for sure. Just kind of looking at some of the results that probably caught your eye in a rivalry game there between two communities that are about a hay bale throw during Solon beef days away from each other. Solon, I tell you what, we mentioned Starmont being a surprise after kind of the first 2 weeks of the season. I thought this was definitely a rebuilding year for Solon, but they've bounced back and they posted an impressive 37-20 win over Mount Vernon. Takeaways from the Spartans winning that rivalry game again.
It sounded like they brought in, did like a wing back or well, not a single wing, but they did something with the kid that hadn't carried the ball all year, and he had like 20 carries for 200 yards.
So,
and I guess Mount Vernon just couldn't. Yeah, they unveiled that, and yeah, I don't know if that's something that they just did for one game or if that's something they're going to do the rest of the way. But yeah, I mean they got waxed the first game by Davenport Assumption, and they barely beat Clear Creek 7-3 in the second game, and now Solon looks like Solon again.
Yeah, they averaged about 39 points a game over the last 2 weeks against DeWitt, and Mount Vernon, who was in the top 2, top 3 pretty much of just about everybody's rankings. Yeah, Conlon Poynton, a sophomore, rushed 19 times for 218 yards. That's an 11.5 yard per carry average and 3 touchdowns, including a 66-yard run there. Yeah, heck of a performance for him, and even completed a pass for 12 yards. So did a lot for the Spartans in that victory.
And we'll see how Mount Vernon reacts to this, right? Now that it goes into to district play. I think last year beating Solon probably propelled it into bigger and better things and what turned out to be a state championship game appearance. So, Joey Romberg only threw for 423 yards. I mean, that's a couple of days' works, right? But
right.
They had almost 500 yards of offense and end up getting shellacked. So, we'll see how Mount Vernon reacts this week. Coming off that loss and trying to see who the Mustangs have. Mount Pleasant, so should be a bounce back week. Should be a bounce back week for Mount.
Mount Vernon has one tough game now that they get into district play. They got Assumption at home in week 6, and in the game that'll be the first game at the new stadium. Solon's got a tough road ahead. Grinnell this week, and then they go Benton, Williamsburg, the 2 games after that. So Solon's got 2.5 tough games left.
And maybe this one, you're talking about how Mount Vernon was propelled by a victory. Maybe this is what really sends Solon into another gear heading into that tough part of the schedule.
Agreed.
Speaking of Mount Vernon, really quick, you mentioned the new stadium now, end of an era, the Bellamy Bowl almost there at Mount Vernon, leaving First Street Field, heading to a new stadium by the actual high school. Did they do a lot of commemorating or do anything special in that last home game on Friday?
I don't know. Did Plague and Cule cover that one?
Yeah,
I think so.
Probably be a better question for him. I don't know. And
haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. I think a lot of old players came back, and they have that big Mustang helmet there at the left end of the field, northwest end. I think a lot of them were congregating around them. I don't know if they ran out of the helmet with the team or what, but I'm sure there was some pomp and circumstance with that, and probably should be in 2 weeks as well.
Maybe Ryan, I hope Ryan took a piece of sod or something, took it home with him, a souvenir, nurture it, keep it going.
If there's anybody that deserves part of that turf, it's the Bryan family, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Kind of going through some more scores throughout the area. Williamsburg remained unbeaten. They handled Fort Madison 48-14. Then you had Regina staying unbeaten. They've had a really good turnaround. Gentry, Dumont, Jackson, their passing game has really come through for them down there. That was a team that I think they went 5-4 maybe last year. Guys, and talking with Gentry Dumont for this week's feature, he mentioned how this group of Regals players really last year left a bad taste in their mouth and almost felt like maybe they let the program down a little bit, and they wanted to get back to those high standards that many of them grew up watching. And so far they've been pretty dominant through the first 4 games in the first half of their regular season. They beat Durant 49-12, which wasn't unexpected, and they had to a winless Cascade team this week to try to go to 5-0. West Delaware, eye-opening win there for the Hawks. They struggled the first 2 weeks, and now they're 2-2. We see kind of a common theme between or some similar themes with programs in West Delaware. A big 42-13 win over Webster City, which was a top 5 team, I think, at the time. But West Delaware's coming on strong, and they'll have Maquoketa this week at home. Maquoketa 3-1, and now West Delaware looking for its 3rd win. Did that surprise you guys? I mean, was that something that kind of went in the shock category or surprise category from last week?
Yeah, that one was up there too. You talk about kind of revitalized. I think you can throw West Branch in there too. They had that tough loss early to Williamsburg. I think they lost a heartbreaker to Dyke. Now they're 2-2, and with a win over Waterloo Columbus in there, and I think they're a team that's starting to gain some traction again as well.
Yeah, and it comes back to tough parts of the schedule and programs that are always, good programs are going to find a way, right? You would think, to get the ship righted when things aren't that great, and that's what you have in West Branch and West Delaware, and that was a huge win for West Delaware, and the spread, guys, was what really surprised me, 42-13, and they were able to hold Jackson Cherry, who's Webster City's bell cow running back, to just over 100 yards, which was, pretty significant. And then they ran for 329, looking at the stats here, ran for 329 themselves. Brent Jakovic, quarterback, with a great game, 87 yards and a touchdown passing, 217 and 3 touchdowns rushing. So again, a huge win for West Delaware, and kind of saying, hey, don't forget about us up here in Manchester. We're pretty good. We're still pretty good.
Just looking at a couple more scores from last week. Monticello, we talked about how Iowa City High won the boot. Monticello won the cowbell, right, between the two programs, with a win over Anamosa. 2 teams remain unbeaten, with Northland 48-0 win over North Cedar. Lisbon 57-6 over Highland. One of the games that really kind of stood out, not necessarily about who won, but similar to what JJ said with West Delaware, the margin of victory. MFL and Appleton Parkersburg. MFL blanked Appleton Parkersburg. I think it was right along the lines of like 41-0 or something like that.
42. Yep.
42-0. Really can't I can't remember Appleton Parkersburg having a knot put on their head like that for a long time, but man, this MFL team, something they saw coming to the junior high ranks, and boy, they've just been outstanding so far this year.
And they've done it with a new quarterback. You know, they had the Driscoll kid transferred mostly for basketball reasons, from what I understand, over to Decorah, and he was their starting quarterback last year. And Trevor Blitz Benteen has come in and taken over behind center, and Wyatt Powell had a big game for him last Friday night, couple touchdown runs, and he's running with a big cast on his hand because he's got, I think, a broken thumb, if I heard right. So, yeah, that's kind of a statement win. Anytime you go up to the Sacred Acre up there in Parkersburg and put a knot on AP's head that bad, you're doing some work.
Look ahead to this week, unless you guys have any other comments about last week's results at all. But kind of looking at some of the games between ranked teams, we mentioned 2-2 Kennedy and 2-2 City High. Iowa City West hosts number 8 Ankeny. 2-2. How big of a game is this for Iowa City West? They've got a good win against Liberty, coming off that loss to rival City High. Is this a big matchup for the Trojans?
Sure it is. It's a really big game, and who they have after this one. I'm just kind of looking ahead here at what they've got following Ankeny. Let's take a look. Okay, so they got Ankeny, and then they got Jefferson, Washington, PV, and Prairie. It's hard to envision West winning out after this game. So, they're going to have to beat somebody that they're going to be an underdog against, whether that's Ankeny, PV, or Prairie, or Jeff. I don't know what that'll look like next week, but to make the playoffs, they're going to have to beat somebody good. And, this would be a good place to start, because looking at the RPI right now, I was kind of fiddling with that earlier this week. Right now, Iowa City West is one of those teams on the outside looking in at number 19. So they're going to have to stack up some wins here.
In Class 4A, right now, Western Dubuque has Waverly Shell Rock, which I think is just as surprising as anything that Waverly Shell Rock is 0-4. But of course, they've had a meat grinder of a schedule through this first 4 weeks. Bondurant, Farrar, and Newton. I thought Newton was a team coming in this season that was like maybe a borderline or back end of a top 10 team with the people that they had coming back. So that's not necessarily a given there for Bondurant, Farrar. And then you've got a biggie on the west side of the state in 4A, number 7, Council Bluffs, Lewis Central, against number 9, Glenwood. We could see some more of that
juggling,
kind of changing. We might be reshuffling some rankings come next week again with a couple of those matchups, considering they could maybe go either way.
Yeah, if somebody out there wants to do the 4A poll for me next week, let me know. Just DM me on X or something. So
that was really a tedious exercise this last week.
It was.
Oh my gosh.
It's not easy. It's not easy when you have that type of balance and everything.
Yeah.
There. Looking at 3A, big one in 3A, number 2 Harlan at number 3 Creston. Harlan 3-1. I believe their only loss was to Lewis Central, a real tight one there. Creston 4-0. They've just kind of continued to climb up the rankings this season, so that's a big one out there. We mentioned Mount Vernon heads to Mount Pleasant, and then Solon, coming off that big win against Mount Vernon, heads to Grinnell for a battle of 3-1 teams. So I guess we'll really see how Solon follows up that big win against Mount Vernon.
Yeah, you talked about Creston, and they're legit. You said Harlan's only loss came to Lewis Central. Well, Creston beat Lewis Central, so yeah, they're absolutely legit, and they're at home against Harlan. I don't know. I don't imagine they beat Harlan very often, but big opportunity for what is it, the Panthers this week at home.
In Class 2A, we have a couple top 10 matchups. There, first off, number 2 Central Line George Little Rock 4-0 at number 9 Cherokee 3-1, and then number 3 West Lyon at number 4 Western Christian, 2 4-0 teams. So, and then number 8 Greene County at 3-1 hosts number 10 Carroll Kemper. So some big matchups in 2A, especially kind of in that northwest corner of the state.
Yeah, I don't know what the number it is, if it's 2A2 or 2A1 or whatever it is, but Central Lyon, West Lyon, Western Christian, and Cherokee all together in that district. Holy puppies. I mean, that's tough stuff, man.
And I got to think the Ag Bowl's coming up out there too. That's what they call the annual West Lyon Central Lyon game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that, that's got to be tire irons and all the chains across your knuckles and all that kind of stuff, right? Central and West Lyon play.
I would think so. Looking at Class 1A, one of the big ones we mentioned, MFL Marmac coming off its win against Appleton Parkersburg. Number 2 ranked Bulldogs host Sumner Fredericksburg, 3-1 coming off its first loss. JJ, is there any threat of a letdown coming off that big win against Appleton Parkersburg and some Fred coming off a loss, or do you think it's business as usual for the Bulldogs looking to go 5-0?
Yeah, I don't think that. I think Sumner Fredericksburg's a pretty good football team. So, I think this will be a tight affair. I really do. And, MFL, I really like that football team, guys. I think last year they got to literally within a minute or so of going to the Uni Dome in the semifinals, losing in the mud to West Branch. And I think that's just you've seen this program go from not being able to win to getting to the playoffs regularly to winning a game or two. Now I think the next step would certainly be for it to get to the Dome. And I like this team a lot. I think it's got a lot of good athletes and good veteran players who know how to win. And, but that being said, I do think the Sumner Fredericksburg game could very well be interesting Friday night.
In Class A, number 1 St. Ansgar heads to number 6 Nashville Plainfield and 2 4-0 teams. Lisbon at 4-0, ranked 7th, plays at 3-1 Pekin. And we already talked about Northland, ranked 5th, 4-0 against the East Buck, which dropped out of the rankings after their second loss of the season, and the lopsided loss to Starmont at 2-2. Maybe not so much about the game Friday, but JJ, Northland has really put together a big season so far, but there's a story behind that, given the fact that probably its 2 best players from last year aren't with the team due to graduation and not going out, right?
Yeah, Chade Haugenberry, my boy Cletus, he was I certainly would say their best player last year at quarterback, and played some defense as well. And then their leading rusher running back was Mason Betchen, and he's a great all around athlete, and decided not to play football. He wanted to concentrate on some baseball and some basketball, where he's a standout player. And I talked to his brother Parker, who's on the grounds crew at Veterans Memorial Stadium, actually, and Parker said that Mason's dealing with a broken back right now.
Ooh.
So he's got to be in a I don't know, a mobilizer or a truss or whatever for a long time. They hope they don't have to operate on it, because that would prevent him from playing basketball, running track, and playing baseball this summer. So all our best to Mason. But anyway, yeah, despite that, Northland's played really good defense. They've taken care of their business and done a terrific job. And it's weird, guys. Northland and Lisbon don't play each other. They're not in the same district. What's up with that? They're not very far away from each other.
Right. And that could kind of both go in different directions, but that could make for a heck of a matchup in the postseason. If they collide, that's where it'll be. You mentioned Northland's defense, and this is astounding to me. I don't care who you play, what have you, but 3 straight shutouts for the Lynx. They have not given up a score. They haven't given up any points in the last 15 quarters. They gave up a touchdown to Alburnett in the opening quarter of week 1 and have not given up a point since. I mean, that's pretty amazing. That's a hell of a streak. And kudos to their coaching staff.
That'll win you games.
Looking at 8-player, couple of matchups there that kind of stand out. Gladbrook Rhinebeck, the top ranked team, heads to Janesville. Gladbrook Rhinebeck is 4-0, Janesville 3-1. Central City, they host Cal Wheat. Central City looking for its 4th win of the season. And then up north, you've got number 9 Clarksville at Turkey Valley 3-1. So we'll see kind of how those shake out. Just really quick, any games that really kind of stand out to you that we haven't touched on, whether it's in the area or across the state, that you think is noteworthy?
I don't think so. I think you've hit on all the good ones. All the now we're in district play, so the optional games are over. Now they're pretty much assigned games, and I just don't think we're going to have the volume of really, really good games up and down the lineup from here on out. I mean, there's going to be a few. We talked about the really good districts, the 2A1 up in Northeast Iowa, the one that MFL's in with Dyke and AP and Sumner Fred and Denver. I mean, they're going to have good games week in and week out. But I think for the most part, most of these districts are going to have 1 or 2 really good games the rest of the way.
That's a great point, Jeff. Great point.
All right. So to have a little fun before we close, we've played What Year Is It? Or What Year Was It? We've done the Who's Got More, like we've done in previous seasons. while I was prepping a little bit, I was watching the Game Show Network, and Match Game came up, and I know we're kind of fans of the old Game Show and stuff like that. So I thought the three of us could have our own little Match Game ideas. So I came up with 5 questions. Are you guys ready to try to give this a go? Maybe
Let's
embarrass
play.
ourselves a little bit.
Let's go, Gene Rayburn. I'm ready.
All right. I don't have I should have made a little microphone, but
Was Soupy Sales on Match Game, or is he on another game show?
I think he was a panelist from time to time.
Okay.
I think he was on every game show.
Probably.
Yeah, could be. Paul Lind was the middle square in Hollywood Squares, right?
There you go.
All
Charles
right.
Nielsen Riley.
Yep.
Yeah. Brett Summers was a big one.
Absolutely.
So, okay, here we go. For the first one. All right. Coach, keep your head on a swivel said, coaching is really, really hard. But this season, blank has made it look easy.
Repeat, please.
I don't have the music. We probably would have to pay for that.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Coach, keep your head on a swivel said, coaching is really, really hard. But this season, blank has made it look easy.
Ding.
All right.
You ready?
Sure.
Okay. My answer is Ed Miles.
My answer, also Ed Miles.
See, we have a match.
Okay, I did not. I guess I was going the other direction, and I was thinking of a player that made it look easy. So I'm wrong. I went Grant Gloucester.
Oh,
All
all
right.
right.
That's okay.
All right. So our second question is, Nathan Ford said, you guys are way off. I think the best player in the area is blank. So who is your pick for best player? Or who would Nathan Ford say is our best player?
Well, I'm not versed on Grinnell's roster, but
Nathan's not that big of a homer. He would go for the best player overall. You guys,
I'm going to go with the best athlete in the area.
and we have a match. Derek
Yay.
Weisskopf. My graphic in the background's keeping my
Derek Weisskopf. Ding ding
we
ding
got
ding.
3. I believe the corporate people would call that consensus. All right.
It's scary that we're thinking so much alike, by the way.
Yeah, I know, right? Barry Bandwagon likes to root for front runners. I told him he should follow blank the rest of the season. So what team should Barry Bandwagon hop aboard on the rest of the season? This will be interesting to see if we meet up on this one. So what team should Barry Bandwagon hop on board for the remainder of the year?
Do you like the music?
So is this a team that's generally not very good, but is now?
However you want to view it. I didn't necessarily go that way, but
I'm going with the team that I think is the most likely to have a big trophy next month.
that's fair. I went with Northland. With how big, how strong they've been so far.
JJ?
West Des Moines Dowling.
Oh, you went with the big gun. That's fair. How things have changed. We went from We went from
Consensus
all
is
matching
nobody
to not
matching.
getting one at all. So, okay. So this season has been kind of the year of rebuilds and resurrections. Tipton has started 4-0. You can see Jeff Linder's piece about Tipton in our prep rewind from last week at the Gazette.com. But Tipton has started 4-0. I think the Tigers will finish with blank regular season wins. How many regular season wins do you think the Tigers will have this year after a 4-0 start?
That's a thinker.
Now remember they have 8 because week 9 will be the start of their actual postseason.
Oh, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Ding 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 ding. Okay. Ding.
All right. I have
Go ahead, you
7.
go for. Uh-oh.
I have 7. I think they go all the way until they face Monticello.
We could go close here. I'm trying to get it in. 6.
Yeah.
6.
JJ and I both went 6.
So you guys, we got one match there. So that
My camera's backwards.
not terrible. Not terrible. Okay, this one is more fun. You have to be more creative with this one. Our final question. Dumb David got fired as a football manager. All right. Dumb David got fired as a football manager. He brought a blank to last week's game to help the defense. Dumb David is so dumb. He brought a blank to last week's game to help the defense. Have fun with it, boys. I did. You guys ready?
No.
No, still pondering. JJ, did it come a little easier for you?
Yeah, which probably means this is stupid. So,
Okay, who wants to go first?
Go ahead, JJ. I'm wrong.
a literal picket fence. Defense. Defense.
I had a tackle box.
Oh, I like it. Very
Tackle
good.
box.
I got fishing net.
Very good.
Hey, that's close. We're close. So I don't know about you guys. I had a little fun with that. I hope you did.
That's
too.
awesome.
Let's
Guys,
do that again.
Yeah,
I hope the people watching were able to play along as well and had fun with it too. So just kind of a neat little game here. Let's tell everybody where we're going to be at this week. I'm going to head up to Manchester for the game between West Delaware and Macokota. Jeff, where are you guys going to be heading this Friday?
I'm going to Kingston for the first time this season for Jefferson, Washington. Really, really looking forward to seeing what this Jefferson team's all about. Haven't seen them yet. Haven't seen them much the last few years, and looking forward to it.
And I will be at Bates Field, where I hope that I am gifted a couple of multicolored pens for City High and Cedar Rapids Kennedy.
You'll probably get a tub of popcorn instead.
That was what we need to tell people that Jeff loves the multicolored pen, and Phil Lala, the new first year AD up there or down there at City High, had a couple of pens, multicolored pens waiting for Lindy when he got to the game last week. There you go.
He
That's
knows
awesome.
the way to my heart.
100%.
Awesome. And I believe we have correspondents heading to Prairie for the Liberty Prairie game. Anywhere else that that we're going to be? For some reason, one's escaping me. I think.
Liberty Ankeny West.
Ankeny in that 2-2 matchup with Ankeny and Iowa City West. So
Clayton Kill's going to be there.
And then Mike Condon will be at Prairie for Liberty Prairie covering for us. So we'd just like to thank everybody for following along. Make sure to check out our content on prep football and other prep sports across the board at thegazette.com. For Jeff, Linder and Jeff Johnson, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in again this week and catch us next week. Any parting words from you guys?
I'm just waiting for you. I'm waiting for you, Pilch. You gotta take us out like you always do.
All right, sounds good. For Nathan Ford and everybody else, make sure you keep your head on the swivel. Thanks, everybody.